Everyone. In this video, I am planning to explain all of you guys the concept of blockchain in a very easy and understandable term. So, to understand any concept, first what you need to do is you need to understand its definition in a very high level. Okay, and once you understand, once you have that high level definition, then you can start going a little bit deeper into its individual components. So let me first of all explain you what is the very high level definition of blockchain. So I'll write that definition out. Blockchain is a distributed database, and while I am writing, you can fast forward this video in a 2x speed. So blockchain is a distributed database which is shared among the nodes of a computer network. Okay, so there are multiple key terms that we need to understand before we can actually grasp this concept of blockchain. So let me highlight all of the important concepts that we have to understand from this definition. The first concept is the concept of distributed database. Okay, and the second concept is the concept of nodes. And when we talk about nodes in the computer network terminology, then we are essentially referring to a physical device. I'll come to that in a moment. So we just need to understand these individual components, and once we understand these components, we can combine these two individual components and try to understand what actually this blockchain thing is. Okay, and you might have a very vague idea of how blockchain is being used in the Bitcoin ledger keeping system, and I'll come to that in a moment. So first of all, let me explain you these concepts. So the first concept is the concept of distributed database. Now, the moment we see this term distributed database, we can further split this first term into two individual components. First is distributed, and the second one is database. And when I say database, what does a database mean? The moment you read somewhere database, you need to think of a organized collection of data. Organized collection of data. Now, if I say organized collection of data, then that is just organized collection of data. We cannot say that as a database, but we need to also add something like organized collection of data, which is essentially available in a digital format. So I can add available in the digital format. Okay, so that we are calling as database. Okay, now what do we mean by distributed database? When we talk about database can come in variety of forms. The first and very popular database type is relational database. Then we have something known as centralized database, and third, we can also have distributed, which we have to understand the definition of blockchain. So we have relational database, centralized database, and distributed database. And what is database? Database is nothing but organized collection of data which is available in the digital format, right? Okay, so I'll not go into this relational and centralized database. I'll just come directly to the distributed database. So what are we talking about when we say distributed database? So database is essentially organized collection of data, right? So this organization can happen in multiple ways. In the centralized database, this organization is taking place in a centralized server, or you can say centralized computer, which is not shared, which essentially means that we have one computer. Okay, this is a centralized computer, and this computer is giving access to its data to its users. So we can have user 1, we can have user 2, and we can have user 3, and so on. We can have multiple users, right? So this is what we mean by centralized database. Now if I have to explain you the concept of distributed database, then what we are talking about here is that we don't have one centralized database here, or rather centralized computer here. What we have is we can have multiple computers. Let's talk about a very hypothetical world where we only have two computers, and we are connecting these two computers. So both of these computers have some database, and these two databases are talking with something known as, let's assume that these two databases can be connected in some intelligent way, and these two databases have been connected, and what we get is we have user 1, user 2, and user 3. So user 1, user 2, user 3 can get access to both of these databases. Okay, so here we are talking about distributed database, right? So that is what we are talking about when we say blockchain is a distributed database. So you must have got a very broad level understanding of what blockchain is. So blockchain is a distributed database. So essentially it is a way of storing information. And when I say information, that means data. So storing data. Now that data storing is happening in a little bit different way. I'll come to that in a moment. Okay. Now the next point is node. What do we mean by node? Node of a computer network. So when I say node, what do we mean by node? So node is you can think of node as a physical device or something that is being used to let's say send information to another computer. So essentially we can have, let's say, a computer 1, and this computer 1 might have some sort of router which is being used to connect this computer 1 to a Wi-Fi, right? And we can have computer 2, and computer 2 might have some sort of modem. So modem is also can be used to get a network. Now if computer 1 and computer 2 are connected with some sort of mechanism, then how are these two computers are going to connect? They are going to connect via these two physical devices. Here in the case of computer 2 it is going to be modem, and in the case of computer 1 it is going to be this Wi-Fi router. So these two devices are what we are calling as node. Okay, so I hope you understand the concept of node of a computer network. Now if I reread this definition, and when we say computer network, you are already aware of computer network. So and anything with which we can connect multiple computers. So when we use our network, what we are essentially trying to do is we are trying to access somebody else's computer. Okay, so for example, I type https google.com, then in that case I am trying to access Google's computer, and in the computer science terminology I will say that I am trying to access Google's server rather than Google's computer. Okay, so this is what we mean by computer network. And now if I try to combine these three terms and reread this definition, what we get is blockchain is a distributed database which is shared. Now when I talked about distributed database, I discussed that let's assume that there can be some mechanism to connect these two computers. So how are they are getting connected? They are getting connected through nodes, and the system that is being used to connect these nodes is something has to do with cryptography. I'll not go into that in this video, but to drive the point home, right now what we are talking about is, so blockchain is a distributed database. So the moment somebody asks you what is a blockchain, blockchain is a type of database, and that type is distributed, and the way we have connected multiple computers is by the nodes. Now why are we calling this blockchain as blockchain? Let's break apart this term blockchain a little bit. Okay, blockchain. So we are talking about two terms here. We are talking about blocks and we are talking about chains. Okay, and when we combine these two terms, we are getting blockchain. Okay, so when I talk about block, if I have to define it in a very high level or in a very simplified manner, I will say block is a mini computer with some space. And when I say some space, it can be in terms of MB or GB. For example, I might say it is a mini computer with a space of 10 megabytes. In that case, I'll say this block can contain only data which can be having the maximum size of 10 MB, or it can be obviously larger than 10 MB. Obviously, for that we need to create blocks in that way. For example, I can have a block of larger than 10 MB. So what happens is, we have a one block, and this block might have some sort of data, and that type of data can be anything. Right now we are using these blocks to store transaction ledgers, and that is what we are referring to as Bitcoin, because in Bitcoin we are storing the transaction history of those purchase and sale of those Bitcoins in these small blocks, and these blocks have some space. As long as this particular block is going to be filled, its space is going to be filled, it is going to get connected to the previously created block. So this block must have been created previously, and this also has some space which is going to be 10 MB, and it must have been filled, and the moment this is going to be filled, it is going to get attached to the previously created block using cryptography. Okay, so using cryptography I am going to create, and I am going to then create a new block, and I will start pouring data into this new block, and I will try to fill up this 10 MB space, and as long as this 10 MB space is going to filled up, I am going to attach this block to these two previously created blocks using again cryptography. Okay, so this is how I am trying to create blocks, and then I'm trying to chain these multiple blocks, and that is why we are calling these as blockchains. Now one thing that I want to discuss very briefly here is that how blockchains make sure that our records are safe. So there is a very nice property of what we call as decentralized blockchain. Decentralized blockchain. What do we mean by decentralized blockchain? So what happens is, when we try to create a database, distributed database in this fashion, decentralized blockchain fashion, what we do is, with each block we fix a timestamp. And the moment we do this, so the moment I fix a particular timestamp to this block, it immediately becomes what is known as immutable, which means that any data that I have kept in this particular block, it is going to be unchangeable. I cannot change that piece of information, and immediately the moment this data is unchangeable, I will say that my information, my secret information, whatever is kept in this block, is going to be safe and secure. That is why we talk about how blockchains can be the future of banking, because they help us in keeping the information very safe and secure. Okay, so I'll stop right here. I have tried to explain you the concept of blockchain in a very high level manner from its definition, and I hope that I have explained it properly. Let me know in the comments if the concept makes sense. Okay, and any feedback that you might have for future upcoming videos, you can also provide that. Thank you so much.